Welcome to the Living Out Loud show with Michelle Wadleigh and Alan Vukas. In each episode, we will explore practical spirituality through inspiring and enlightening conversations. Be a part of our weekly conversation with a rotating cast of speakers, teachers, and authors as we uncover and share spiritual, mental, and emotional tools to help you live your authentic life out loud now. And welcome to another episode of the Living Out Loud show. I'm Alan Vukas.
I'm Michelle Wadleigh.
And welcome to another episode of, as we come together to have enlightening and fun, right? That's the emphasis, fun conversations about practical spirituality to support you in living your authentic life out loud now. And so welcome. Oh, Michelle, it's good to see you.
Good to see you. I'm excited because I know that not only am I seeing you today, but we're going to be in California together. So I'm looking forward to being in face-to-face with you next week, which will be so much fun. For those of you who might not know of which I'm referring, there's a yearly conference. Well, there's a couple of yearly conferences. This is a retreat, though, that the Centers for Spiritual Living has every other year. You know, one year no, actually, this one is every other year. That's true. And then we're going to a place that is sacred to religious scientists or people practicing science of mind for decades upon decades, because it was almost our Mecca for many years. Mm-hmm. And it's on the Pacific Coast. It's in the county of Monterey, or in the town of Monterey. And actually, it's Pacific Grove is really the town it's in. It's on this coast. It's north of Carmel and the 17-mile drive. It is in a piece of heaven, heaven on earth. Someone asked me the other day, what was I excited about? Why was I excited about going? And what was it? And for me, it's a holy journey, and it's the land. For me, that land there has been infused with love and consciousness and wisdom for decades upon decades. And so I am so incredibly excited to go there and to just drink of the vibes and the beauty. The local towns are so, just so sweet. And so we get to play, and that's where we will be for our listeners. That's where we'll be coming to you from next week. We will be coming, and this month is dedicated to Asilomar and Ernest Holmes. And so we will, that's where we're going to be coming to you from next week. And that'll be fun. The show goes on the road.
We're going on the road, We're taking this show out on the road. Yeah. And I'm excited about going to Asilomar. You know what? I'm going to find the link. Let me, could you look that up? Let's see.
Yep, I can do that.
Yeah, let's get the link to SOAR, which is the conference, the summer conference that Michelle is talking about. And we'll put the link in the chat so that you can take a look and see what's going on, and also the agenda. It's going to be a wonderful time. And I'll tell you, this is going to be my first time going to Asilomar.
I know, when you told me that, I was so surprised. So here we go.
You know me. You shouldn't be too surprised. You shouldn't be so surprised, because I sometimes hang out on the sidelines and sort of,
yeah, I feel like this is your coming out.
Yeah, it is. Well, because I am also going to be speaking there at Asilomar on Thursday evening, and I'm going to be talking about the renewal roadmap. The roadmap of renewal.
Lovely.
And, and I'm going to be using, as I often do, myself and my own story as an example.
Good teachers do.
Yeah, or it's probably my example is going to be more of what not to do. Don't do what I do. Don't do what I do. Here's what I've learned from my mistakes.
Yeah, but our stories are so valuable.
I'm so honored to really wanted to have been asked.
Yes.
And because, so it was more than 50 years that Centers for Spiritual Living, which was known previously as the United Church of Religious Science, and when Holmes was still alive. And one of his most famous talks was the sermon by the sea. The sermon by the sea. It's not from the sermon by the sea.
Yeah.
It's actually in the newly published, the latest edition of the Science of Mind textbook has that message from.
Oh, I didn't know they did that.
Yeah, it's. I have my copy upstairs, but yeah, if it, in the leather bound one, there is the
okay.
the that talk, and it's just powerful. So this will be my first time going, and to be speaking. It's just really, I'm honored, and
He's speaking on the stage.
I don't know. Am I going to be on the if I'm on the same stage that Ernest Holmes? I don't know if I'll be able to handle it. I might just.
Of course you are. That's and then I remember when I was becoming a minister, and my teacher, took me backstage and showed me the green room and showed me the podium, and there's a little step there because Ernest Holmes was a tiny little guy, and he would have to use this step in order to be seen well, because back in the day they always spoke from behind the podium. We've loosened up over the years. But no, it's a sacred privilege.
It is. I know what.
I'm not a Jesus person, but if I was a Jesus person and it would be that kind of thing to go to walk the steps that he walked. For me, it feels like that.
And it is a retreat. And so there is that openness that when you go on a retreat, that you take that you are retreating to be open to what is wanting to emerge and to be known. And so to be in that space, it's just this sort of the awe of it for me is just that I know that's just even being on that stage, or I will be able to say that in 2023, I was part of history, part of the, part of the, they'll be able to pull up some agenda somewhere and say, oh yeah, that's where he spoke. And so it's pushing some of my buttons, Michelle.
I bet it is.
It's pushing some of my buttons.
It's a big deal. This isn't small. And if our listeners are not aware, I mean, it will be his audience, Alan's audience will be populated from, the new and seasoned ministers from far and wide, new and seasoned practitioners from far and wide, and which can feel like a tough audience, even though everybody there, they want you to do well. They do. They want you to do well, but we forget that. We get hung up in like, oh my God. But the truth is, like, well, it's a risk, and the risk. So this is, so we're talking about Alan right now, but for what the listener can take away, when you push your boundaries and when you challenge yourself to go beyond your comfort zone, when you look at a fear in the eye and go through it instead of being at the mercy of it, life changes dramatically. Things open up. Your consciousness expands. It's a powerful thing for you to do. It is a powerful thing for you to do. So, Alan, you will not be coming back as the same man that you were when you left. You're going to be breaking your own glass ceiling, right?
Yes, it is. And I'm putting the actually I saw you put CSL, and I'm putting the chat to the retreat itself, with the agenda and everything there that you could see. It is a
I see what you did. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This year we have been focused on living out loud. That's what the show is about, living out loud. And so there comes a point of what to demonstrate that. It's not just enough to talk about it. And so I remember when I got the email and they extended the invitation. They said, let us know if you accept this invitation. And I was like, well, it was an immediate yes. There was no resistance in me at all. It wasn't even, Michelle, I'll tell you, it wasn't like I jumped up and down like I won, like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, like I got the golden ticket or something,
Right.
It didn't feel like that. There was an immediate yes within me, and of I'm being asked to tell what only I can say.
Right.
because this year we talked about vulnerability, vulnerability and authenticity, and it's just like, wow, if you want to get if you want to push the boundaries of vulnerability, get on stage
You
in
know,
front of your colleagues, inspire those who inspire.
yeah. I remember once Reverend Bob Dean or Dr. Bob Dean
Oh,
asked
Dr.
me
Bob.
to come down and work with his board and speak at the Atlanta church where he is now. And it was a stage where some of the greats, including Bob, had spoken. And in the audience, I looked around and there were some seasoned ministers in there. And I was like, oh, I went, no, 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 no. So we have to be our own cheerleader,
Right.
and we have to be willing to go past the self-imposed limitations. And for me, that's what living. I know we you and I have spoken about, if it's not a no, it's a yes, or if it's not a hard yes, it's a no. That's what I meant to say.
Right. Yeah, maybe is not a yes.
Right. And yet sometimes I feel like, and this was somewhat influenced by my teacher, that to live by yes, because yes will scare the dickens out of you. Yes will open doors. Yes will open your own resources and your own talents and expand. Yes does that. And you might be shaking, but you'll be okay.
Oh.
You'll be okay. Taking the risk that has you finally feel alive you'll be okay. You'll make it through. And if you fall and bump your knee, get up. You'll just get up, right? What's the big deal?
I hope I don't fall.
No, I wasn't meaning you. I just mean in general. You're going to be fine. You're a great speaker. You're going to.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I am.
It's a guaranteed standing ovation. I want you to know that too.
Oh, well, that's wonderful to know.
Well, because I love you. You'll find that, and I think that's an important thing, because I think it's important to feel to know that the audience, that there's a simpatico happening, and I think that's an important. I think that's important. You're there to be loved. I'm going to sneak in that building and save a seat in the front row. I don't care what anyone says. I might even heckle you.
So I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to an opportunity to I guess to tell my story, or just to say what is coming forth to say about renewing ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
the importance of that, and the necessity. That's really what it is, the necessity of taking time to renew. And
actually, I did want to make that point. For if you are not somebody who thinks that a retreat is worth making the investment, I encourage you to think again. Retreating provides a reset. It provides a reset of your physical body, so that you can feel safe in your own skin, and then when you come back from the retreat, to feel a sense of just kind of reconnecting with life. So I encourage. Matter of fact, I'm just gonna put this out there. We don't have any information on it yet, but if you're in the Northeast, I'm doing a retreat the first weekend in November, and it's going to be Massachusetts. So I hope to see some of our listeners there.
Where, I mean, you're going to have to drive through Rhode Island to get to Massachusetts.
Do I?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go out the day early.
At a map. Massachusetts is just to the north of us, half hour away.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't paying attention. Yeah, of course I do. Yeah, now I think about it.
Of course you do. Yeah. We pass by my house,
All right, well, we'll have to come and play.
Yeah, or we'll have to see what's going on. So do you know where it's at? Do you know where it's at?
The Seaport Retreat and Marina and Retreat. The information, they're signing the contract today.
Oh.
So, and the beautiful thing is I get to be there and be in charge of content but not be in charge of the details. which is
Oh,
such a
nice.
yeah, that's a lovely
Yeah, I'm
thing.
looking. I look forward to that too. Let's see.
Mhm.
We might have to. I might have to, show up or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
so next week we're going to be all of that to say, Asilomar is it is like a mecca to religious scientists, those in Centers for Spiritual Living, and so it's a big deal, and it's also this issue, the Science Mind magazine. While it's also commemorative, what's going around, about Ernest Holmes. This is going to be they're moving to a 2 month so instead of 12 issues a year, there's going to be 6 issues a year.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, so beginning next month, it won't be the September, it'll be September and October in one volume,
Oh, okay, okay.
out in one magazine. And
Oh, fine. That must hopefully that makes it easier in home office.
oh yeah, it seems that this is going to be a plus, and there are a number of other magazines. I get the Daily Word from
Mhm,
Unity. They
mhm.
they do the same thing with their magazines as well. So so this is the last one. The Science Mind magazine's been published for about 95 years now. We're rounding it to 100 years, and so we're just adapting and continuing to grow. And so so we've been talking this month about a powerful topic because as it
Mhm,
relates to
mhm.
power,
Yep.
speaking truth to circumstance, and this is our final week talking about it. And it's just been a powerful month. What's been what has been the takeaways for you thus far this month? What are you taking away from the month of July?
So, I'm hesitating just to get my thoughts together. So, for me, I have speaking truth to circumstance is another reminder, a once again reminder, just like the textbook that everything is repeated. Sometimes we have to hear things over and over and over again. For me, this has been a powerful reminder to monitor my words,
Hmm.
monitor my thinking, to listen to the voice inside of my head, and to remember, absolutely, completely remember that I always live at choice. We always live at choice. And when we see what we think is a circumstance that is bigger than who we are, the very first thing to do before you attempt to make any change, the very first thing to do is to question what you think is solid
Hmm.
and to then begin to deconstruct that in your mind, to absolutely deconstruct that. Because otherwise, otherwise, we live at the mercy of circumstance. We live at the mercy of our challenges. We live at the mercy of bad relationships or hard relationships. We live at the mercy of our genetics. We live at the mercy of all sorts of things unless we take time to remember this is not bigger than me.
Hmm. Hmm.
And the me that I refer to, it's me as aligned with and whatever our listeners want to call it, aligned with. For me, it's one. For me, it's God,
Right.
but it doesn't have to
Force,
be God.
right? Life, the universe, whatever,
Yeah,
whatever.
universal intelligence. If
Mhm.
we move in alignment with universal intelligence, and this is something I learned from the shamanic path, is to live in right relationship.
Mhm.
For me, living in right relationship, what that means when I'm in right relationship is I'm paying attention to my surroundings. I am being respectful of earth. I'm being respectful of the animal kingdom. I'm being respectful and compassionate with humans because we have all these moving parts. But if we're living in right relationship, there's a softness and a synchronicity that happens. And when you question what you thought was reality and you rise above it, oh man, the
Mm.
same thing is going past your fear.
Mhm.
Same thing that happens. I think the most important thing that not to take away not only from this month, but from this very powerful teaching that we subscribe to is that we always have choice and we can rise up. Does it happen overnight? Does it happen immediately? Does it happen miraculously? Not always. It doesn't always accompany drama or the ta-da. It doesn't always have that, but it's always available.
Mhm.
And for me, that is my reminder. So I've been sometimes and you and I have spoken about sharing stories a number of times. So sometimes, and I'm far enough down this road, I need to be even more meticulous with my speaking because the more we are connected to spirit, and this is something I'd like our listeners to remember, the more practiced you are, the less leeway you have for being irresponsible with your spoken word. That's the other thing. Because when you're really connected, it's like a more immediate, you're more directly tied in, right? So I have been even more listening to my own
Mm.
listening to my speaking. And I'll be mid-sentence with somebody. I go, no, nope, don't want to give any power to that. And it's not that I'm denying my feelings because I'm pretty good about that stuff, but I refuse to plant that seed in the collective consciousness. I
Yeah,
refuse.
could we just start there? Because actually, I've been wanting to bring that and insert that because there is to me the starting place right there.
Hmm.
It's what am I feeling about it?
Hmm.
Right. What am I feeling about it? I mean, my concern, my deconstruction of circumstance. Um, I may not always be able to deconstruct the actual circumstance
Right.
or
Mhm.
what is going on. And that's what sometimes I have, and I'm sure you've had students as well who've come and they want to pray something away.
Mhm.
And and our and we can be so prone to be examining and uh, saying, I have the change that I'm seeking is, or the happiness I'm seeking is dependent on this being different.
Mhm.
So it and really what we're deconstructing, or at least this is how I would relate to this, is we're deconstructing out the story that we're telling about the meaning that we're giving this
Mhm.
circumstance.
Mhm.
Because there's some circumstances, we know this. There's some circumstances that people have in their experience that may never change, and I'm talking about the what it looks like, or what, and I'm talking about physical conditions. Someone is born with something, or there's a diagnosis, or there's the divorce happened, the
Well,
breakup
I have
happened.
a perfect story then, and I won't mention this person's name, although she would probably not mind. Precious student of mine. She started taking classes with me a few years back, 3 or 4 years back, and she started with my forgiveness course. Now, at the time, this woman, prior to what I'm about to tell you, prior to her accident, was an active hiker.
Mm.
Um, she was a coach, I mean, therapist. She had an active, full life. And she is a woman of years. So she stayed healthy and like really embracing her life for a long time. And then a tree fell on her.
Mm.
A tree fell on her. She lost one of her legs, and now her life is completely different.
Yes.
She doesn't whenever I would see her initially, and that earlier especially, so she was in a wheelchair and she was angry.
Yes.
She was angry, and I understood because I don't know that I could have gotten away from being angry. If you're an active person and suddenly that stops, and we're not talking about a 20-year-old, okay? So somebody who was almost 80. So circumstances were not going to change that dramatically for her.
Right.
But when she was first in my classes, she just always had that edge. And she was a little bit angry. And
Mm.
course,
Understandably.
of course. Oh my God, yes. But what's happened is she's taken the courses, the forgiveness courses. She took the shadow courses. She took the forgiveness course again. And now every time I see her, She's lighter. She's brighter. She's more hopeful. She's just like this beacon. She's now a beacon because even though the initial circumstance did not change,
Right.
her attitude inside of that, her feelings about it
Yes.
have changed. So she presents in a whole different way. And I just adore her. I absolutely adore her. And I feel very honored because I know the first time she took the course, she was quite charged, because we're talking about forgiveness, and it was challenging, but she is so precious. I love her dearly, and I wish I knew I was going to talk about her because I would have asked permission to use her name. So
Well, and that's powerful because that's really we're changing and deconstructing our story
yeah.
around the
Mhm.
the conditions, and um and and when we're changed, right, when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. And
Mhm.
so they may change in the physical, they may change but what we're really seeking to do is change who we are being and our story around it, how we're relating to it
Mm,
is definitely, I mean, going to shape
right.
how we're showing up. And so here she forgave, um, and a larger explanation of forgiveness. I'm not the expert that you are. But the how I use forgiveness in a very with broad strokes, where I'm giving one perception for another.
Right.
I'm telling, I'm choosing to tell a new
Mhm.
story and who I am, and not, as a result of this, and maybe in spite of, but not even in spite of. Look who I've become
Yeah.
as a result of, what gifts this has given to me. So it really, to me, is like to um, start with what am I really feeling? What am I feeling here? And
Mhm.
what's important to me? What do I want? Um, and to sit with some of that, because sometimes there can be a tendency that we go running off and we want to change it, we want to bypass it, we want to resist it, resent it, deflect it, defer it, we want to dance around it. And so get clear on what you're feeling about it.
Yeah, yeah. So, I was sitting with my hair, or not sitting, but I was in the chair of my hairdresser, and I've known this guy now for years. I adore him, and we have so much fun. And I gifted him a copy of my book a few weeks back, my last visit, just for the heck of it, right? So, oh, yep, there you go,
Yeah,
my
I
favorite
just, yeah,
book. So I gave him a copy of the book, and I don't ask people. Well, no, that's not true. On occasion, I'll say, "Did you read it?"
there is
So
that.
I didn't say that today though when I was with him, and but he brought it up and he said, I read some of your book, and what he read was the beginning of my story that I tell.
Oh, you tell a story in there.
Yeah, and the story of my overcoming my circumstance. And so it's funny. I could tell in the way we were chatting and things he said that he suddenly had a new respect for who I was
Mm,
because because now, I walk in, I'm pretty jovial, like I'm pretty light, but once he understood the story, it was more like, my God, how are you
right.
normal? Like, how are you normal?
Mm,
And when we, again, speaking truth to circumstance can come in many, many ways. Forgiveness is just part of it. Sometimes it's just being deliberate and saying, "Oh no, that's not going to have its way with me." It could be that, be that
mm,
simple.
mhm,
Um, but Alan keeps it's funny. I used to be the one to be the reminder. You keep reminding us, but don't deny what you're feeling about it.
mm,
Don't do that because you're just denying the most beautiful, precious part of you, which is the humanity of you. It's
mm.
really, it's really the beautiful thing about who we are. Truly is. So,
Thank
yeah,
you, Michelle. Thank you for that. That because that's some work that I've done. That's been an important piece of my journey, is to get in touch with what I'm feeling.
yeah,
Growing up in a dysfunctional slash normal home. Um, it was what I we thought as children growing up in that home. What we thought and felt was really not, it was not important. It wasn't solicited. It wasn't, it was not valued. And children should be seen and not heard. And so we learned how to monitor other people's feelings
Mm-hmm.
and to react to them, to maintain peace or keep, and practicing that, then you just sort of, what I'm feeling is irrelevant. And that has, as a result of that, and this, I'm going to be talking about this next week, so act like you're hearing it for the first time. Yeah,
You mean on stage?
At a Silomar, yeah. That's that, yes, not taking time and making space to what am I feeling, then I'm really missing who I am in this moment, what's going on around this.
So, and I want to add to that because many people there's not a lot of intelligence around identifying emotions. That's a pretty common. So if you're one of those people and you struggle to identify your emotions, let me give you a little hint. Just pay attention to literally, what is your body feeling? Is your stomach tight? Are your shoulders stressed? Are your hands clenched? Are you sweating in your palms? Does the hair go up in the back of your neck? And even if you don't have, an eloquent line of descriptive words about your emotions, just get to the body and learn like, oh, wow. When Alan said that, I reacted. Because you could feel the body react. That is the quickest and easiest way to accumulate some confidence in naming your emotions. And all the experts now, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Although, there is a new trend, and I can't say this word on this podcast, but there's a new trend. My husband told me about one person he saw, and then we saw another one eating breakfast in a cafe the other day, where on a proud man, wearing a T-shirt that basically said, "F your feelings." I went, "Oh, interesting."
Oh,
so now they're T-shirts. People are wearing T-shirts that basically say, "I don't care about your feelings." So now what's happening? So now as the world is rising up and it's emotional, which always happens, right? As the emotional maturity is starting to push the boundaries,
right.
this is the resistance. Oh no, you're not going to push me into that. And now we have resistance. I am fascinated that someone would choose to wear that on a T-shirt. I'm fascinated by that.
Yeah, what is that? I mean, that I would. Yes, I don't know what I would do if I saw that in the wild. I don't know what I would do. I mean, whether it would move me to, say, what does that mean? I would need some clarity. Are you saying that to me about my feelings, or are you talking about your own? I mean, what is, or is this a message? Is this the message that you're broadcasting to what we should do with our emotions, or you really don't care what I feel?
So I want to draw a comparison. And again, maybe people are tired to hear me talk about this, but my future daughter-in-law, she kept pushing me to watch Ted Lasso. Now, the truth is, we initially couldn't watch it because I didn't have Apple TV initially. Thank you, Alan. So I didn't initially have Apple TV. But then I did, and I started watching it, and we were hooked. Now we're going through it for the second time. Now, the reason why I mention this again is because even in this major primetime, hugely successful series, they are normalizing emotions,
Right.
normalizing, what do you call it? Oh my God, anxiety attacks, normalizing men having emotions, normalizing men still being very much men and having emotions. And I think before now, some corners, not everywhere, some corners of our society was like either you were a man or you were a wimp. Right. And then in those categories, that isn't even about sexuality, but that could also be another layer of it. And so what this show does, it says, oh, you can be a feminine man and have emotions, but you can be a macho kind of man and have emotions. And so they've done a lot to normalize it. And I think that it is threatening to people who have not accepted themselves as they are. I think it threatens them.
It's that is true. Yes, it because then there are things that they may not know how to handle themselves, or they don't, either in themselves or others, and don't have the skills or the skills or the bandwidth to be able to do that. A couple weeks ago, I mentioned during a Sunday talk, and I was just thinking, people who don't know who we are, if you've gotten this far. So at Concordia Center for Spiritual Living, here in Rhode Island, a couple weeks ago, I brought up during the talk, and this was just an aside, and I said, women are not the only ones who are impacted by patriarchy. I said men suffer as a result of this as well, where men, most men have been taught that the only appropriate emotions for a man to express is either anger or frustration.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that is anything that is other than that, then you stuff it, or you you just ignore it, or fix it, solve it. What do I need to do to not feel that anymore? And I had 3 men who came up to me and said, "Thank you for saying that. That was very powerful. I never thought about that before. And you're right." It's checking in within themselves is like, oh, how do I express anger? How do I do this?
How do I do it helpfully, right?
When I started a couple of years ago with that as a practice, like, what am I feeling? My vocabulary around, and you gave a very helpful tool there. My vocabulary or my labeling of emotions was very limited.
Yeah.
Because my skills were limited. And Brene Brown has a wonderful book, the Atlas of the Heart, where she gives, 83 emotions, and then give some descriptions around that. But what I started with were very simple, because they were very simple. Am I angry? Am I sad? Am I lonely? Am I tired? Am I happy? There were just some really basic ones. And what helped me was to do exactly what Michelle had offered. Well, there we go. Atlas of the Heart. Yes.
Fabulous book.
Yeah. We had Tracy Amadian, one of our practitioners. She did a book study on that, and there were rave reviews by people who went through that book study.
Yeah.
And so, but checking in with what I'm feeling without even putting but really what I'm feeling in my body. As you said, that's how I start. It gets me actually out of my head when I start into my body. What am I feeling, rather than trying to think about what emotion am I feeling? So I start by naming what I'm feeling. I'm feeling tightness in my chest. What am I feeling right now? I'm feeling, I'm feeling my left palm is itching, or this, whatever. Those sort of things can then give us space to be able to get in touch more with what our heart is feeling.
There was a part of that. I can't remember, but I want to just add, I want to tie in. So throughout the we're 25 episodes today. Is that right?
I believe so. I think we are at 25.
I can't keep it. I'm sorry. I can't keep it straight. Life is
keep going.
So here it is in the 25th episode of what we've been doing here at the Living Out Loud show. And if you have been following us, and if you've been listening, and you've been hearing some very raw sharing and some, really powerful conversations. I mean, I say it's powerful. Do I have a right to say that? I don't know. I'm saying it, and I can, because I am my best student, because I never teach I never teach what I'm not ready and willing to learn, right?
Yeah.
And so what I want to say to you, if you've been listening, and hopefully our listeners have a maturing of their language around their bodies and their emotions and their authenticity and integrity and all those things. Because here's the one thing I want you to know, that is not, it's just something to keep in your mind. It's not the best news in the world, but unhandled, unexpressed, denied, depressed, ignored, however it is you handle some of those emotions that you don't want to, they can become disease in the body. And that's where, for some of us, you don't have to agree with that concept, but there are many of us as religious scientists that do believe that those suppressed emotions, unacknowledged, can backfire and what do you call it, metastasize
Mm.
the body to become disease. And the earlier we become aware, the earlier we catch this, the sooner we catch these things and acknowledge them, the better chance we have of not being at the mercy of them, folks. And the only time to start is now.
Right.
And you don't have to be an expert at anything. You just have to be willing to be the presence of love for yourself, to do what Alan is saying. What am I feeling? What's my body saying? Okay, because you know what that does? That delivers a message to the body that says, lets the body know that you're listening.
Mm.
And we all need to be heard and seen. And I'm talking about the body as if you're not part of it, but this is the vessel that you're in, right? The you that is you is not the body, it's the I am of you. And so in a way, the body is the product of your conditioning, the product of your belief systems, and all of that. So it's very important that we grow a relationship, and a listening relationship, with our body and our emotions, and then through that feel empowered to speak truth to circumstance.
Yes.
Just let's bring that back around.
Right. Well, yeah. And I was just watching that and coming together, because it is so it's from that, when we're fully grounded, right? We are really, it is only when we are grounded and centered that we are truly in our power.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so taking that time to pause, and whenever we get triggered, circumstances, the news, the phone call, the email, the text, whatever it is that may capture our attention. And we talked about that last week, right? When we were talking about social media, our attention, and
Mm-hmm.
where's our attention at? Then, so what's going on inside of me if I'm feeling powerless
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and victimized? Then what am I feeling? I'm feeling stuck. I'm feeling, I'm feeling angry is what I'm feeling, and that is a place to begin. It is a place to begin. And then what am I saying about myself? What am I saying about this condition? What am I saying about these things? And am I speaking the truth? The words that I'm speaking, and how I'm showing up? And the word is more word is more than just the syllables that come out of our mouth. Our word is even larger than that. Is my word in alignment with the truth of who I am? To me, this is speaking truth, right? Speaking truth, speaking the word. But it needs to come from, I always think that we need to be in sync, our minds, our hearts, our gut. I think there's three brains, there are three minds in us, not just, it is all of us. And am I able to speak this truth freely, without
and the Heart Math Institute has done so many tests to talk, and they speak very succinctly about the intelligence of the heart, that we have a mind, but we have an intelligence happening in the heart. And I consider myself to be a fairly feeling kind of person, but it took me a minute. It's like a number of years ago to think of that in that way. But the fact is, it did eventually come together for me. And so I've, just learned to listen with greater love and compassion for myself and for my reactions.
Mm-hmm.
My reactions. I was on a prayer partner call this morning, and I said to her, I'm feeling a little embarrassed about something I'm feeling. I'm like, so, and then we talked about, I said, I'd like to be able to stop feeling, believe it or not, it came out of my mouth. And she reframed it for me as like, well, what if the feeling was just okay? I'm like, right. I know this stuff, but that was still there. And it was a great pivot. It was a great pivot. I don't have to get rid of it. I have to just be okay with it. It's just okay. It's a stepping stone. It's a stepping stone. And I want to say something else. You were pulling together the month, and I want to say, when I first heard the term "speaking truth to circumstance," as compared to speaking truth to power, and David Robinson, who wrote the series, he was very specific and intentional about making a distinction there. I didn't get it right away. Like it didn't necessarily just flow. But the truth is now, and especially as I've investigated throughout the month, which is the great thing about
I love it,
doing this here with you and doing the program, is that the circumstance is in power. It's not power. It's the result of. It's the effect. And so I want to bring the most basic way to look at everything that's going on in your life, and that is cause and effect. And so if you can see it, measure it, touch it, it's effect. And so that's what it is. And so if there's an effect, there is a cause to that effect. We can't always see it. We don't always have a sense of it.
Yes.
But the fact is, if we can measure it or touch it, or all form is effect. So that means that somewhere as you are in alignment with the intelligence or the universal intelligence or God, whatever you want to call it, then you, in that relationship, you can have some influence over. Some things might feel too big. Some things might feel too big, but I assure you they're not. I listened to a reel last night on Facebook. And the truth is,
short things, right?
Well, yeah, this is one of the longer ones. This was, I guess it wasn't a reel, it was a video. And it was by a hospice nurse. And this hospice nurse has been doing this work for a very long time. She's been an RN for a long time. And she was called to the bedside of someone, and it was late at night. And she was saying how she was a little annoyed because she was tired. It was the end of a long day. But then, of course, she sees the family and the patient. She realized, okay. And they bring in the patient. She met them at the house to get this patient all set up. And she's seeing I want you listener to hear this. She was seeing, as an expert, all of the measurable signs that completely convinced her that this woman would not make it through the night. She labeled the evidence of what she was seeing, from the point of view of a nurse, of a seasoned person. And yet the children of this person, who were in their 20s, she said, they were like, so, when will mom be able to get up, or when will we be able to feed her? And when, they were asking questions, they're all optimistic. And she's thinking to herself, wow, they don't have a clue that she's not making it through the night. She wasn't there to deliver that message to them. She wasn't their counselor, but she was trying to ease in and just helping them to telling them how to help her to be comfortable. She calls up the next day, expecting to hear that, she called her office, and they hadn't gotten a call. So then she called the home, and she asked them, what's happening? How's everything going? This woman, who this nurse believed was on death's bed, was up, eating, talking, and walking. So I have no idea why. I have no idea how. I'm not labeling it as anything except for us to remember that we're not the expert in what's possible.
Right, right.
With enough, I'm going to say this word anyway, but I don't know how anyone will take it, but with enough faith and conviction in just possibility, stuff happens.
Right.
So from this woman being absolutely convinced, and she says in the video, she said, I can't help but call it a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she was certain. So we listeners, you, me, Alan, we can't be certain.
Right.
As long as there's breath in our body, there's a place to have hope.
Yes.
As long as there's breath in our body and we're able to think, we can allow for that which we don't even know to have impact on us,
Yes.
For our lives.
Right.
I was very moved by that story. It was a medical story of sorts, but for me, it lent itself to how I live as a metaphysician, or how I feel compelled to live as a metaphysician, which is with hope and faith and conviction.
Right.
I don't know nothing. Right? You and I know nothing in terms of what true reality is.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I mean, well, because we have limited, our ability to know is limited. Right. I mean, because we live in this, I mean, we, at least on this plane, our conscious awareness is limited by our senses. And now we do have access to other sources, but I can't see around that corner.
Right.
But there is a field of intelligence that is everywhere present, that does know, and me being in that is in me, and so that intelligence knows. And so while I may not, the conditions and the statistics may say that this is not going to, this person will not make it through the night, I can, through faith and hope, trust that there's something larger in me that does know the way, and to live in the possibility, because unless I'm living in the possibility, I'm not open to it.
Right. Yeah. And if
that's true, I'm not open to.
Yeah. And if you're a beginner, if this is a new conversation, try the best you can to keep an open mind and not dismiss it, and then a simple practice, because sometimes all you can do is be willing, and sometimes you don't know how to be willing, so you have to be willing to be willing.
Yeah.
And just live in the spaces. I'm willing to see the truth. I'm willing to know my power. I'm willing to live extraordinarily. I'm willing to live out loud. I'm willing to whatever that is for you. Open the space by developing the willingness first in your language, and then in your actions. Follow up that way.
Mm-hmm. What I would add, I mean, I am going to add to that, but it's just as a next, because in that willingness, then to affirm that while I may not know,
right.
While I may not know, there is something in me that does. There's a verse from the Bible, the greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world, referring to that life, that presence. So greater is the presence, greater is the life that is in me than these conditions that are all around me. What is in me that made me of itself is larger than these. And so I can't see around the corner.
But you're pretty sure there's something around the corner.
There's something around the corner, and and I don't know how electricity works, but I flip the switch. So being willing for a higher good to unfold, for opportunities to align themselves, for life to coalesce and work for my good. Can I be willing to that and claim my power, or the power that's in me, and then speak that truth. Speak that truth while being guided. This has been a very powerful. This has been a powerful month. Powerful reminders.
I will often say to my congregation, sometimes I'll ask them to repeat affirmations and just one of my basic favorites is I accept my good and my greater good. I accept
Mm.
my good and my greater good. I accept my good and my greater good. I accept, and just to become a conscious field of receptivity of good. It doesn't take a lot of effort, folks. It
No,
does.
I accept my good and my greater good.
Yeah.
Do you know, let's just say that together. I accept my
My
good
and
and
my
my greater
greater
good.
good. Yeah.
I accept my good.
And you don't have to define it because that which knows your heart's desire. That which knows. So, you might want to guide it to some degree, but the fact is, whatever good can look like many things. It can look like many things.
Mm.
My if anybody's been watching me on Facebook, you know that I'm a little bit of a nut about my grandchildren, proudly, and I don't even mind being called grandma. And I thought certainly at a younger age I would. But now one of the most precious moments. So I started a number of weeks ago walking alone, and then I called them up one day because I know they're up early. Anybody want to go for a walk with me?
Hmm.
First, my granddaughter came, and then the next day, my granddaughter and my son, and we kept my grandson. And then we kept doing this, and then I got bit up like crazy from mosquitoes, so I started walking just around the pond, and they would join me. And now even the 2-year-old wants to come.
Oh.
I show up in the morning, and it's precious. She goes, "Nana, want walk?" Because she's
Mm.
she's so great. And so now I go there, and her mother gets her ready in the stroller, and we go off and we do our 2-mile walk, and just around the neighborhood because I have to push her in a stroller, so I can't go in the woods with her. And that in and of itself is a grace to my life that where I'm immersing myself in love. So that's for those of you listening, find places to immerse yourself in love as you're affirming, I accept my good and my greater good, because I can guarantee you that those walks are part of my good and my greater good.
Mm.
Because man, it's some of the most precious time that I have with these kids.
Mm.
Some of the most precious time.
That's beautiful. What just came into my head as I was listening to that, and in that's um, from that place of willingness to accept our good. I get this might have been just a message for me, or maybe someone who is listening here, but listen for the invitations that show
Mhm.
up when you start to enter into that, when you
Yes.
begin to affirm that. Notice life beginning to provide opportunities for you to experience greater good. And so in that, then open your hands, relax,
Mhm.
and how about saying yes? We talked about this. How about
Mhm.
saying yes more often,
Yeah,
from
I
a place
accept.
of openness rather than contraction. I'm
Mhm.
willing, I'm open, and notice what begins to flow in, and begin to say yes to the flow,
Yeah.
and to allow it to carry you.
It's just a fantasy, and and I'm sure you probably have this fantasy too, but I have this want, wish, and desire for our listeners to really be activating the things they hear here.
Mm.
And if as a listener you have been here more than once, if you have found a pearl of wisdom in anything that we've done, I really implore you not only to put it in the chat when we're in the show, but to respond, because they could do that on the website, right? Am I
Or
correct?
they can comment on the website,
Yeah,
or
comment on the website, comment on Facebook, because it lets us know that the pragmatic side of what we're doing, because we try to drop these little bite-sized pieces of wisdom. And what
all in an hour.
all in an hour. Well, but an hour weekly. And so, we're here for you.
Right.
Otherwise, Alan and I could just chat on the phone because we love to do that.
We do.
So this kind of replace some of our chatting. But the fact is, we are here for our listeners. We're here for you.
Yeah.
And it would be so supportive for us to know that what are your pearls of wisdom. And maybe that's what we can one day put that out in the world and have you respond as you're listening. So that's all. I just wanted to say that. My hope and dream is that you are benefiting greatly greatly.
And if you are, then I was just going to say, because we are on as a podcast as well, like us, subscribe to us, give us, on Apple Podcasts, you can give 5-star ratings. If it's not a 5 stars, then don't bother. It's
It doesn't
okay.
mean that.
Go find some other podcasts to give that rating to. But doing that allows other people to more easily find us as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So well, I guess we are going to wrap it up.
The hour. Here. Oh my God, we did it again.
Yeah, there we go.
Where do they find you, dear friend?
Oh, well, where they'll find me is I am. Or let me see here. Just find it there. So if you're on Facebook or Facebook, Rev Alan Vukas, or at Concordia CSL, I mean, all that's there. I have been writing more actively on my blog, newthoughtnewlife.com. And so I'd invite you to check that out. If you, what's going on, you can hear my random thoughts around different topics at newthoughtnewlife.com. And how about you, Michelle? Where are we going to find you at?
Well, I am the founding director of the Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey. We are currently showing up once or twice a month in Montclair, otherwise online. My Facebook is Rev Jersey Girl. And of course, my education nonprofit is the Planned Happiness Institute. For me, that's feeling very juicy these days because we have all sorts of wonderful things happening. So find us wherever you are. Of course, as we mentioned it earlier, get yourself a subscription to this precious magazine and buy one for a friend. Buy one, get one for a friend. It's a wonderful gift that you can give someone. And then, of course, you can find us here at, email us. Maybe there's, I know we're doing a theme, but we're flexible. Maybe there's something you think we should be discussing that's going on in the world. Let us know. We're here to serve. We're here to serve.
Here to serve. That's great. So, all right. Well, so would you like to pray us out, or I could pray us out?
You could do it today.
Yeah. So let's just join me in knowing this as we just drop within our hearts. Just here this month, as we have taken time to explore this topic of speaking truth to circumstance. What I accept and know is that power, that truth is right here, showing up in and through and as each one listening, each one in our hearts, each one near and far, are all expressions of this one power, this one truth, Spirit itself. And I just accept and know for all that this truth and power is guiding and directing and uplifting and moving each one into their good and greater good. The willingness is already here. The move and activity of Spirit is already here right now. And I just declare that the guidance and the direction is easy and light as each one moves into that space of knowing themselves as truth and power, standing in their good and greater good. I'm so grateful to know this, and I just allow this to be as we release this gathering, and as we look forward to next month's topic of my passion and my purpose. So I'm so grateful. Thank you, God. And so it is.
And so it is.
Thank you, everyone.
Well, you'll see us next week in California. Yay!
Yes, next week from Asilomar, live.
What time? We have to do that at 9 a.m, don't we?
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out. We'll see you guys here. Take care.
Be well, all. Be happy.
Bye-bye.